Here's the second part to the hypercharge ranking, numbers 14 to 1. As I said in my last video, I couldn't do it all at once. And also, this video might have to be edited later on, simply because there is a new Brawl Talk coming out tomorrow, and there's going to be new hypercharges. I'm going to have to give my opinion on those. But let's get things started. Number 14. Lose Hypercharge, Slashy Storm. I hate this hypercharge. I hate this hypercharge. I hate this hypercharge. It's so annoying. And as soon as I see a Lou pull up in one of my games and I see he has a hypercharge, I'm like, ah, crap. This game is going to be really annoying. This hypercharge makes Lou's super insta-freeze enemies on impact, which is pretty simple. And then after that, his super just works normally, like how it normally would. That's the annoying part, though. The fact that it insta-freezes you when it lands. Because, like, once you get frozen, you can't really do much about it. You're just kind of stuck there. And that gives the enemy team a perfect amount of time to actually take you out, which is very annoying. Honestly, in this game, my least favorite thing is being stunned. It is literally annoying as hell. And the fact that this hypercharge makes that happen makes it even worse. I do love playing Lou, but this hypercharge, whenever I play against it, is just so annoying. On top of that, 9 times out of 10, most of the time I do lose. I think it's just a skill issue. But if I'm being honest, this hypercharge is really good, but it's just really annoying. Number 13. Colette's Hypercharge, Teen Spirit. Somebody want to explain to me what's the lore behind this hypercharge, because there's nothing in her kit that screams spirit, but it's still a good hypercharge nonetheless. It's just, I don't understand it. It doesn't make any sense to me. This hypercharge makes Colette super summon a spirit behind her, which makes it so that way it hits twice. It does double the damage, which is honestly really amazing. Like, it's crazy strong. Like, it can demolish a lot of brawlers in, like, the right circumstances. It's also very strong at heist. Like, look at that. Look at all the damage! The only thing is that the spirit is slower than her, so you're missing. So, like, it has an easy chance of missing, but nonetheless, it's still a pretty good hypercharge. Unless, you know, you bump into walls. But let's be honest, who does that? All my randoms do. Number 12. Sandy's Hypercharge, Swift Wins. Honestly, one of the strongest hypercharge supers in the entire game. I mean, Sandy's super was already one of the strongest in the game, and this hypercharge has solidified that. It's still really strong. This hypercharge makes Sandy's super give him and his teammates extra movement speed while inside it, and it briefly silences opponents when on impact. Now, the silence isn't that great, I'm gonna be honest. Kind of mid. But the extra movement speed is amazing. It's a game-changing super, and it makes Sandy and certain comps with him a nightmare. The only thing is, that's why I'm not putting it in the top 10, is because it did get its rate of charge rate nerfed. So it takes him about, like, 3 or 4 supers for him to get now, but it's still a really good hypercharge. Honestly, I really wish I got this hypercharge, because this hypercharge is just busted. Number 11. Barley's Hypercharge, Bottled Up Rage. Ooh, I'm sorry, Barley. You just barely did not make it into the top 10. I am so sorry. Your hypercharge is really good, but honestly, the last 10 are way better. This hypercharge makes Barley's super toss 3 giant bottles instead of 5. They cover a larger area than his regular super would, and they destroy bushes on impact. This hypercharge is really good because it does a lot of damage, and it covers so much area. It gives Barley so much area control. He's, like, honestly one of the better throwers right now because of this hypercharge. Honestly, he wasn't that great to begin with before he got his hypercharge because of Larry and Laurie and a couple of others, but this hypercharge has made him somewhat meta. The only thing is that this hypercharge does take a long time to charge, if I'm being honest with you. It takes a long time. But I can forgive it for that because it is actually a very decent hypercharge. Just takes forever. Look at how long it takes to charge it. Didn't even get it. Alright. Yeah, other than that, pretty great hypercharge, and it gives so much area control. Look at that. Just look at that. Alright, now we're on to the top 10 hypercharges. These hypercharges are considerably the best hypercharges in the entire game. That is if the next new batch one-ups these hypercharges. And kicking us off for number 10, we have Penny's hypercharge, New Lobber. Yo, Penny actually might be a very meta brawler right now, because she recently got a range buff, which made her pretty good. On top of that, now she's got a hypercharge, which is fabulous. Chef's kiss. Mwah. This hypercharge, although it says that it gives Penny's turret, makes Penny's turret bigger, it doesn't actually give it more health, which is very weird, because you can see it gets big, but like it still doesn't have any extra health. However, the main point of this hypercharge is that it makes Penny's cannon fire 2 cannonballs at once instead of twice, which is absolutely amazing because it gives Penny's mortar great area control, which honestly is what makes the mortar really good. On top of that, she charges it so fast, like 2 supers from 1 hypercharge. It's amazing. The only thing is that the only complaint I have, well, I mean, it's not really a complaint, but I understand why they didn't do it, is that the fire damage from the cannonballs don't stack, which if they did, that would be crazy. But other than that, it's such a strong hypercharge. It's amazing, and I absolutely love it. I'm really glad Penny's becoming more meta now, because I never really had fun playing her, and this hypercharge has done that for me, solidified that fact for me. Number 9. Ruff's hypercharge, the goodest boy. Why hasn't this hypercharge increases his usage rate? Like, I swear to God, even though he just recently got this thing, he's still one of the lowest used brawlers. He is so underrated. I'm gonna do a brawler ranking at some point, but I'll share my thoughts on Ruff's in that video. But for now, let's just talk about the hypercharge. So this hypercharge is interesting because it does 2 things. The first thing is it increases Ruff's damage by 25% with his super, which is insane because it does 4,550 damage, which is a lot of damage. And if you pick up the power boost, it does close to 5,000. It does 5,050 damage, which is close to Dynamite's super with demolition, which is insane. But the main thing that makes it really good is that when you pick it up, or you or an ally pick it up, and if they have their hypercharge equipped, it fully charges their hypercharge, which is insane. This hypercharge honestly takes care of a lot of brawlers who struggle to charge their hypercharge. The only thing is that you can't really exactly cheese it, because once you pick it up, you kind of keep the boost until you die. But even then, it's still really good. Like, honestly, this hypercharge is really good. And on top of that, Ruff's takes... It doesn't take Ruff's long to charge it. It takes them about like 10 hits to charge, which is like 1.5 supers, which is crazy. I don't understand how he's not played more. This hypercharge makes him so underrated. But at last, though, he may be underrated, but don't worry, Ruffs, you will always be my good boy. Number 8. Frank's hypercharge, Seismic Smash. Dude, Frank's hypercharge is nasty, bro. If you get caught into this hypercharge, you are dead. Like, quite literally. This hypercharge makes Frank's super hit the entire area around him. Why? Why does this thing exist? This hypercharge is so broken. On top of that, if he does it when he's low on health, you are dead.
because Frank did get a rework where the lower his health gets, the faster he attacks. Which is insane. On top of that, Frank charges this thing extremely quick. You can cycle this super so much. Plus, with his noise canceling gadget, he is a force to be reckoning with. The only thing I do have to say is that Frank is a tank and this super does destroy all walls around him, which kind of stinks because he does better with walls around him. But the point is, the principle of this hypercharge is just insane. Like, why does this thing exist, man?
Number 7. Rico's Hypercharge, Trick Shot King.
How has this hypercharge not gotten nerfed yet? No, in general, how come Rico hasn't gotten a nerf since his multi-ball launcher gadget nerf? And even then, he's still a really solid damage dealer brawler. Now, this hypercharge does take inspiration from Rico's mutation, which happened during the Godzilla event. But for those of you guys don't know, this hypercharge makes Rico's super projectiles bounce even further, since that's Rico's main mechanic, and it just makes him bounce even further. It just increases his bounce distance. Now, this hypercharge is amazing, especially on maps with lots of walls, because it, like I said, it increases its bounce distance, which makes it crazy. On top of that, Rico charges his super insanely quick, just like how he charges his super. It takes him about 2.5 supers to charge it, which is insane. The only thing I have to say about this hypercharge, which honestly pisses me off about Rico's super in general, is the fact that Rico's super projectiles can't hit an enemy twice when it bounces off of walls. Why? I've never understood that. Why? If it bounces off the walls, it should just make it so that way it can hit an enemy twice. Like, that's so freaking stupid, honestly. In fact, this hypercharge is pretty stupid in general, because like I said, maps with a lot of walls, you get completely destroyed. Like, there's nothing you and your team can do. So annoying. I really hope it gets nerfed at some point, but other than that, it's still a pretty solid hypercharge.
Number 6. Dynamite's Hypercharge, Boomer.
Of course, one of the most annoying brawlers in this game gets one of the most annoying hypercharges. Quite literally and quite frankly, every time I see a Dynamite with this hypercharge, I'm not gonna have a fun time. It's just like lose. I hate it. This hypercharge makes Dynamite super split into smaller pieces of dynamite after exploding, but that's not the reason I'm putting it high. The reason I'm putting it this high is because of its damage. Plus demolition, look how much damage it does. Why? Why? In no circumstances this super should do that much damage. Like, quite frankly and quite literally, it does so much damage. That is basically an insta-kill. Like, you can insta-kill most brawlers with it. And it's not gonna end well for you if you're low in health, because let's be honest, Dynamite Super is hard to escape out of. Why is this hypercharge do this much damage? This needs to be nerfed. Like, now.
Number 5. Max's Hypercharge, Unlimited Energy.
So, I had to jump into a friendly battle just to show off this hypercharge, because honestly, I can't exactly do it in the training cave. But what essentially this hypercharge does is that it makes Max toss energy drinks to her teammates when she uses her super, and when they receive the energy drink, not only do they get a speed boost, which is kind of quicker than the original speed boost they usually get from Max's super, it also partially charges their super. I need to get it though, so I can actually show you guys how this thing works. Come here, Jackie! Ah, so close. I should have probably bought more enemies. This is kind of unfair, but of course I need to do that. So, here we go. So, Penny receives the hypercharge. Not only does she get the speed boost, which she kind of wasted because she kind of died there, but she also partially got her supercharged.
which is amazing hypercharge. It's such a good hypercharge to help support the top brawlers right now. But honestly, there are better. What am I saying? It's a very good hypercharge, but like in the sense that compared to other support brawlers, some other support brawlers have better support capabilities, but other than that, it's a good hypercharge. Number 4, Stu's hypercharge Infinitro. Why did they decide to go to the mutation route with Stu? Honestly, I would have preferred if they made his hypercharge do knockback, but I'm content with this hypercharge because it is crazy fun and it's crazy good. This hypercharge allows Stu to continuously use his super while he's hypercharged. Like, you can just keep going with it. Like, it's insane. It allows Stu great mobility, and he can get some extra chip damage in with his burns from his super. However, the thing about this hypercharge is I'm generally noticing a pattern with certain brawlers is that brawlers who have low rate of charge for low supercharging rates, they generally have high rates of charge. They have the brawlers who have higher rates of charge for their supers, they have lower rates of charge for their hyperchargers, because Stu does not get this thing in one hit, which usually Stu would get his super in one hit. It takes Stu 13 hits just to get this hypercharge. 13 full bars of ammo. But other than that, this hypercharge is amazing. It allows him the great mobility. And I'm genuinely surprised it doesn't actually take that long to charge in a game. Because you can get this hypercharge crazy fast because Stu's shots are not that hard to miss. Honestly, a really good hypercharge and is really fun. I just wish they did go the knockback route with him. But I'm content with this hypercharge. On top of that, if you have 0 ping, you already know. Yeah, you can abuse this hypercharge like crazy. Whee! Keep in mind though, if you do play him in Brawl and you do use the hypercharge, the super wall hypercharge to kick the ball, it will consume the super, so you have to recharge it again. I want it again. It's so fun. I want it again. Give it to me. Give me his hypercharge again, Gabe. Please. Here we go. Whee! Absolutely love this thing. It's so crazy. So fun. Number 3. Mortis's hypercharge Blood Boomerang. I am so mad that I didn't pick up this hypercharge when it was first released. Like, I really am, because this hypercharge has made Mortis insanely good. This hypercharge makes Mortis's super come back to him at max distance once it reaches max distance. But the crazy part about this hypercharge is the fact is that when you use it, it does the same amount of damage and it heals Mortis the same amount on its way back. That is insane. This allows Mortis to team wipe people. And it was so good, it was so broken that Supercell had to nerf it a couple of days afterward. Because it was just extremely broken. It still is pretty good now. But Mortis has slightly gotten mellowed out because he's getting countered by a lot of the top brawlers. But other than that, this hypercharge is fabulous. I am still salty and mad that I didn't pick it up when it was first released. Number 2. Surge's hypercharge Stage 5. Even with the rate of charge nerf it got, this hypercharge still makes Surge one of the most game-breaking brawlers in the entire game. This hypercharge, like Edgar's, it doesn't indirectly affect his super, but it affects more of his main attack. When he uses his super, his range increases while also making it so that way his shots will split no matter what. Another thing as well, when you do use it, it doesn't keep you at level 4. Whatever level you started at, whenever you use the hypercharge, it'll keep you that way after the hypercharge ends. This hypercharge is amazing because it allows Surge to get crazy, insane damage on people. The only thing I gotta say is that the extra range kinda does hurt Surge a little bit because
if you're playing a brawler against a brawler at mid-range and you have the hypercharge active and you're not able to hit them, whether that being you just missing or they keep dodging your attacks, it's gonna kind of hurt him because the shots do split no matter what. You're not gonna get any value out of them. In fact, you know what? The splitting shots actually were how originally his 2 to max star power was. They would split no matter what, but then they changed it. Other than that, though, this hypercharge is insanely strong. It makes Surge really broken, and it's even with the rate of charge nerf, it's still good. Like, it's one of the best hypercharges in the game. But even then, it's still not number 1 because there's one hypercharge which I know a lot of people overrate as the best hypercharge, and I'm gonna say it is the best hypercharge, but trust me when I say it, it's extremely good.
Number 1. Gale's hypercharge, Blizzard. I know, this hypercharge is very overrated, but honestly, I think it's one of the best hypercharge. At first, I was kind of skeptical about it when it was first released, but now, after watching some videos and whatnot, and actually seeing some gameplay of Gale, this hypercharge is honestly one of the best. And I know it got nerfed a couple of times. In fact, Gale has gotten a lot of nerfs since his hypercharge has been released, but that still makes this hypercharge really good even with its nerfs. And he's just a good, well-rounded controller overall. This hypercharge makes Gale's super wider, and it makes him fire it twice, which it's a pretty simple hypercharge if you think about it on paper. For one, the extra whiff wasn't really needed, if I'm being honest with you, because Gale super is already easy to hit. If you miss it, it is a skill issue. But making it fire twice is amazing because it actually gives Gale extra knockback, which is amazing. Knockback is one of the most broken of things in this entire game. And that's what Gale mainly is about, controlling. He's supposed to be a controller. He's supposed to do knockback, and it's crazy. On top of that, he did get a damage buff to his super, so now it does more damage, which makes it even more annoying. Because of the extra damage, sometimes you can even get kills with it. Like, I've seen comments complain about the damage increase for Gale's super and his hypercharge because it's just so stupid. Honestly, I love this hypercharge though. It's so fun. There is one complaint I do have, and that is its rate of charge, but that is understandable since, you know, it's kind of good, so they need to nerf it. But other than that, I absolutely love this hypercharge. Hands down the best this hypercharge in the game, unless the newer hypercharge coming to Brawl Talk tomorrow one's ups this hypercharge, then I don't see it leaving number 1 anytime soon. Hey guys, I'm from the future, and I wanted to quickly do this. I wanted to go over the new hypercharges, as by the time I'm making this statement right now, the new hypercharges have already come out. So I really want to quickly go over them and give you guys my opinion on them. So let's just start.
Alright, kicking things off, we got Gray, one of the new 6 hypercharges that just recently came out. So his hypercharge is called Another Dimension. Basically what it does is that it allows Gray to have 2 sets of portals on the map instead of just 1. And you can tell the difference when you use it. So I go like this, and then you can see it. So the hypercharge portal is outlined in purple. Also, this hypercharge does have a second effect where it gives you a 1k damage absorption shield when you or your teammates go through it, which honestly is really good. It's cool. So I'm gonna be honest, I actually really like this hypercharge. I think this hypercharge is gonna be very toxic and very crazy because with the right comp, Gray could be annoying. And what's really cool is that it doesn't disappear. It actually stays on the map for the entirety of either the match ends or the round ends for like knockout or brawl ball. Honestly, this is probably one of the most toxic hypercharges, and I could see it just putting Gray like very high in the meta now. Okay, next up is Janet's hypercharge, Magnum Opus. Honestly, I could see this hypercharge pushing Janet back into the meta, because she wasn't really in the meta. In fact, I'm pretty sure she was the second worst marksman. But I think this hypercharge is going to make her extremely good. This hypercharge makes it so that way Janet has better control in the air while she's using her super. So that way it's not like janky. And what's really cool about it is that you can actually, it actually just makes it feel like you're walking in the air. It's like you got normal movement. So that means she can stay still while she's in the air, which is insane, because that's a lot of damage you can get on enemies. The only thing I do have to complain about this hypercharge is that the momentum sometimes can mess up your shots, your bombs, because when you carry that momentum, sometimes the bombs don't always land where you need them to. And also, it's kind of like Miko's hypercharge, where you're kind of stuck in the air and you can't exactly do anything else. You can't attack or anything, so you kind of waste a stat boost. But what's cool about this hypercharge is that you can use it, if you use it as late as possible, Janet still does keep the effect. So if I do this, I do that, I do this, use it as late as possible, Janet still keeps the effect, which is very insane. Honestly, I really like this hypercharge, and I hope to see this hypercharge put Janet back in the meta. Alright, next up is Ashe. I'm gonna be honest with you, it's not the most appealing of the 6. In fact, it's the most simplest and the most boringest hypercharge, but I swear to God, do not underestimate this hypercharge. It can be really scary in some situations. So, his hypercharge is called Rat King. What it does is that it makes him spawn twice as many rats, which is boring. But the thing about this hypercharge is that the impact damage that the rats can do is crazy. On top of that, if you're going up against a team of brawlers that does not have any splash damage, they're gonna have a hard time getting rid of all the rats. On top of that, it builds up Ashe's rage so much. And also the stat boosts are crazy, especially the extra speed. Giving Ashe extra speed makes him a monster. And Ashe also got a buff to how much rage he gets from getting hit. So I have a feeling Ashe is gonna be nasty. This hypercharge is crazy, bro. Dude, I swear to God, if I ever see Eve with a hypercharge in a match, I'm going to try and kill her every chance I get. This new hypercharge has got to be one of the most annoying hypercharges introduced. So, her hypercharge is called Generations. Basically what it does is that it makes her super keep spawning hatchlings until it either gets destroyed or it fully decays. Which, without her mythic gear, it's 9 hatchlings in total, but with her mythic gear, it's 10 hatchlings, which is very toxic and very crazy. Like, I know a lot of people think this hypercharge is not that great. Honestly, overall, this new batch of hyperchargers wasn't terrible. Sure, some of them are not as good as the other ones, but this is the first time we've got a batch of hyperchargers where they just haven't been terrible. The thing that just makes Eve's really toxic is that, like Ashe's hypercharge, if you're playing a team against a team that doesn't have a single splash damage brawler, you're gonna have a hard time getting rid of the hatchlings. Like, it's so insane and crazy. Honestly, I really like this hypercharge. Although it is very annoying, very toxic, it might bring Eve back in the meta. She's she's not a terrible damage dealer right now, but she doesn't have the stats to keep them like most brawlers. Hopefully this hypercharge will hopefully bring her back, because I really like playing this brawler. Nah, Barry getting a hypercharge before Chester or Mandy is crazy. Honestly, I did expect him to get a hypercharge before both of them, because let's be honest, their super mechanics are kind of hard to figure out a hypercharge for. Especially Chester, because he is one of the most complex brawlers. So I have a feeling that his hypercharge is going to come last. But for right now, let's just talk about Barry's hypercharge. Barry's hypercharge is called Double Scoops. What it does is that it makes Barry's super wider, and he drops more ice cream. Honestly, this hypercharge is crazy strong, because it gives Barry so much area denial and so much healing potential. which is honestly really crazy. I've been seeing videos saying that this is by far the worst hypercharge out of the 6, because it doesn't really do anything special. It just gives you extra width for his super. But honestly, it's still a really good hypercharge. It's really only good for like maps like game modes like Hot Zone. And the fact that Barry actually charges his super from just healing him or his teammates means that he can also charge his hypercharge, which is honestly really crazy. Honestly, I really like this hypercharge. I think it's extremely fun. Let me know what you guys think, but honestly, it's a really good hypercharge, and I honestly think it's gonna put Barry back in the meta. Because although he was originally one of the best healers, he kind of dipped down a bit because they did nerf how much supercharger he gets from healing. But other than that, it's still a really crazy hypercharge, and I absolutely love it.